for a long period of almost 36, 37 years. In between, I also headed one of the government flagship program called Mudra. It's for enterprise development, micro enterprise development. One one institution was created, and I headed that for 3 years. I also headed a microfinance institution promoted by NABARD. It's a subsidiary company. So I was there for almost 2 years there. So then from there only I came and I joined Southern here last year. So I'm here last 1 year, and I hope you are fully aware about Southern. Southern is basically a association of microfinance institutions. We started in 1999. So this is the 25th year we are having. So we are entered into the 25th year. So silver jubilee here for us. So, and we have almost 200 plus members. Most of them are doing micro lending. Almost 150 of them are there doing micro lending, and others are support institutions. So around 200 plus institutions are there, which includes all types of microfinance institutions. We have microfinance activities being done by banks, by NBFCs, non-banking finance companies. We have non-banking finance company, microfinance institution. There are separate specialized institutions called NBFC, MFIs. We have also not-for-profit organizations like societies, trust, Section 8 companies who also does microfinance activities. So we have such members with us. So altogether, almost 150 lending institutions are there, and other supporting institutions are there. So we are around 200 plus members are there. So we do the supporting the member requirement, member institutions requirement by policy advocacy, capacity building, those kind of things. We are also a self-regulatory organization recognized by the Central Bank of India. Central Bank is the Reserve Bank of India. So Central Bank has recognized us as a self-regulatory organization for microfinance. So we do a quasi-regulatory role. We also keep a watch on the performance of the activities of the MFIs, and we keep reporting to RBI, Reserve Bank of India, Central Bank, about our findings, observations. So we have regular reporting system, we have special reporting system, those kind of things. We also have another vertical where we do a lot of developmental activities, developmental projects. We do projects on affordable housing, then climate-related activities, then water and sanitation, then graduation of graduation into micro enterprises. The small borrowers of microfinance institutions are supported to become entrepreneurs. So those kind of graduation activities we do. We also have literacy program, financial literacy, digital literacy. So those kind of developmental activities, basically benefiting the poor people and also helping the microfinance institution. So that kind of activities we do. So basically this is all about Sadhan. Thank you.
So to introduce myself, I work with Sadhan, and I'm working with Sadhan for last 14, 15 years. And I look after the industry building side. That in Sadhan, what Mr. Maman was telling, there are two very significant things. One is you're working with the Reserve Bank of India for the monitoring side. Another one is the industry development side. In many cases, it goes hand in hand. But the separate interventions are like what capacity building, study, and also this, this taking industry to the next level is the area which I look after. I do have my colleague Sangeeta.
Yeah, Sangeeta is also there. We have Sangeeta.
Yes. So I'm Sangeeta. I work with the membership team, and yes, together we look after these 220 plus members now, all from all legal status. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so over to you, Tanvi.
Can we get a little, Tanvi? Can we get a little brief about MFR? Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And for that, I would just use a small presentation.
Okay.
Just give me one moment.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen, please?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
but not the presentation.
Oh, the idea was to show the presentation. Let me try once again.
No, that
Can you
screen
see?
came. The presentation was not on. Now it
Yes,
can see. Yeah.
no.
Okay, great. So, yeah. So I think this way.
Can you make it bigger? Can you make it full screen?
I'll just try again. Do you think this works better?
Same. But anyway,
Yeah,
It's okay.
should
You
work,
can go
yeah.
ahead.
yeah.
Okay. So, maybe Joris, you want to go ahead or?
Oh, it's up to you. I mean, definitely. I mean, I can
Yeah,
go
please.
ahead and sure. So MFR is a global rating agency. So we're considered as the only global rating agency because we really cover different continents. So we are very present in South and Southeast Asia, but we also have an office in Nairobi, which covers all the Africa continent. We are present also in Central Asia, in Europe, and we have also a big bulk of our operation in Latin America. The head office, as I said, is in Milan, in Italy, but again, we have those 5 regional offices. And we are currently looking at the number of assignments that we have done, the leaders in terms of, social rating, certification, institutional rating. So we approximately. So we are actually the only rating agency that is licensed by 2 central banks. So it's the Central Bank of Ecuador and the Central Bank of Bolivia, so in Latin America. And so we are the only one, let's say, that has the obligation to perform a social rating and an institutional rating of all the institutions, the microfinance institutions that operates in those 2 countries, in Ecuador and in Bolivia. So the regulation makes it mandatory to do a rating every year, and we are the only one authorized to do this rating. However, maybe we can go to the next slide. I think if there is, yeah, this is just a breakdown of where we stand. This is the experience in South and Southeast Asia. So as you can see, we're very present in most of the countries, covering actually all the countries. But mainly Cambodia, India, and Philippines. Those are the 3 main regions. Maybe Southeast Asia. We are really moving, thanks also to Tanwi, most of our operation in India, which is very good. Before we had an office in the Philippines. Now we're moving our operation from India covering South Asia, but also South and Southeast Asia. And maybe in terms of products that we offer, I don't know if this is the next slide, or maybe I have one slide on that. Or maybe not. But usually we have what we call 2 big group of products. We have what we call our core products. So those are mainly our social environmental rating, which is an assessment that aims at, verifying what is the probability of an institution to put into practice the social mission and the social environmental mission. So this is really the main scope of the social environmental rating. We also do client protection certification. That is something that we do a lot. So client protection certification is really a certification. It's not our methodology, it's the SPTF Cerise methodology, which are the standard setters, and it's mainly certifying institutions against the client protection standards. So this is what Smart Campaign was previously doing, and now it is in the hands of SPTF Cerise. And then we also do institutional ratings, which is a rating that mainly aims at assessing the financial sustainability of an institution. And we also do impact assessment. So I don't know, according to what you're interested the most, we can definitely dig more into those products. But if it's impact assessment, I'm happy to show a small presentation. But this is up to you. Just and maybe Tanwi, you can help. What would be the idea of this call? Whether to present a bit more of those products or to focus more on our impact assessment service and product, and maybe debate on that.
Yeah, so I think Saibal, I think you're muted if you're talking. We can't hear you.
Yes,
So we
please.
can't hear you.
Yeah. For this your can device setting, what exactly is it? Acha. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
do you have this impact study done in any country?
Yes, absolutely. We've been doing impact assessment in the last 2.5 years. So we have strongly strengthened our methodology in the last 2 years, right? I got 2 years, 2.5 years. We've been doing quite a lot of impact assessment. Now in Latin America, in South and in India, we did in Africa. And we actually have two requests. Either is a single big microfinance institution that requests to do an impact assessment, and so in that case we would do an impact assessment for that institution. But we also have the case of investment fund or associations that are more interested in having an impact assessment of their affiliates, of their portfolio, or of a selected portion of their portfolio. And so in that case, we managed to customize a bit our impact assessment, and we have different ways of doing this. For example, we have a big project for an association of MFIs in Congo. And in that case, what we agreed is to have a very light report for every single association, for every single affiliate or member of this association, and have a final consolidate report at the level of the association or of the fund. In that case, it's more a fund, where they would have a global picture of what is their impact. Now, I can definitely, if you want, share some slides on our impact assessment, so that maybe you have more ingredients, let's say, to understand.
I mean, that's fine. We will have a look for sure. Would be happy to see that one. But can we also, is it in your reports, are they on this public domain? Can we see it?
Oh, to share an impact assessment report?
Report, yeah. Is it in public domain?
It really depends on the institution, whether they agree to make it public or whether they have signed a sort of confidentiality clause. We can check. We definitely, I think we have a couple of them that might be that they agree to share, because it's right. Maybe we can check. I think there is maybe one, but we will check.
So if you can show us this contour of this impact assessment, would be good for us.
Sure. Can I ask a question about the impact assessment? See, generally, when you do an impact assessment of a microfinance institution, when you meet the borrowers basically you understand the kind of growth the borrowers have achieved over the period of time. How do you know what was their base line? Because probably
Yeah.
you may not have captured that in the beginning. So you must be coming in between. And how do you assess that? How do you ensure to see that how that growth has happened from where to where?
No, absolutely. That's a good question. And as you said, impact assessment is to measure the change in the lives of the client from a period to another. So you need to see, between those two periods, whether there has been an improvement or not. So in our methodology, what we do is that we assess. So the interesting part of our methodology is that we directly create our baseline. So you will see, whether the information comes from the MIS or whether it comes from the survey, we always look at the change in the last 3 years. So if it's, for example, if we know that this information is in the MIS, we will ask the institution to provide data of that client in 2 points in time. So one point is as of today, and the other point is 3 years back.
Okay.
So I give you an example. If we want, one of the indicator is to measure the growth in the business turnaround of a client. And so we want to see, okay, in the last 3 years, is your business turnover has growth, remained the same, or decreased? And so we look at that in the MIS, or if not in the MIS, we have specific questions in our questionnaire that looks at that. So we would ask the client, okay, in the last 3 years or in the last 2 years, have these changed or not? So we automatically create a baseline, and our baseline is 3 years time. So
So, so basically, as I understand, your base assessment of impact assessment is basically with respect to that institution, how the institution has moved from one to other. If I have to take the impact assessment of the people, the persons who have benefited because of the microfinance, the poor people, how do you do that then?
yeah, it's always at the client's level, at the beneficiary level. So we look at
Okay.
an institution and we will interview. Usually we have a survey on 180 clients, but it can be more or less. And those are the answers coming from the client. Of course, it's a survey that we do at client level. It's the client that answer those specific questions.
Yeah.
So
And
basically,
just to
sorry, go ahead, go
no,
ahead,
no,
go
you
ahead.
please go ahead. No, please go ahead. I just wanted
No,
to
no,
add
I was just
something.
asking, basically, you accept the kind of the response from the borrowers. What they say, you take it as a baseline or whatever it is.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we have ways of checking, of cross-checking. We train the interviewers, and we have, again, two main source of input that will generate the impact indicator. One source of input is whatever an MIS can create, can generate, because some MIS have information from the client, and though we can track that in our system. Or the other main source of input would be from a survey with clear questionnaires, and we can have a look at the questions. What is interesting is that those questions are aligned with the universal standards of outreach. So we need to be careful on the question because we want to make sure the questions are the one that are standardized when it comes to impact assessment, because this is the only way we can benchmark and we
Right.
can score them.
Mm.
Because this is what is the most important information, because you can have an information that says that, I don't know, 54% of the clients have increased their business turnaround. Okay, but is it good? Is it not good? Is it bad? You need to compare with the benchmark. And
Right.
so that's the most important thing. But to generate a benchmark, we need to make sure we always ask the same questions when we do the different impact assessment all over the world. And so
Right.
that's why we can move to that if you want.
Yeah,
But
this one. Yeah.
yeah, this one or this one. So you see those are, oops, sorry, my slide are a little bit. Those are all, the category of questions that are aligned with the with the social development goals, but also with the universal outreach and outcome indicators. And you see they are divided into different categories. You have a categories related to business, related to household, resiliency, and health. And by doing that, we are able I cannot change my slide. We're able to generate a benchmark and a score. So for every single impact indicator that is generated, you will have an understanding of where it is positioned compared to a global benchmark or a regional benchmark.
Yeah. Thanks, Joris. Just to add, I think we do use the triangulation approach when it comes to, but what MFR has is there is a different kind of service in terms of one is in which we can leverage the information that already sits in the MIS of any MFI. That's one. Instead of spending a lot of money in creating a baseline and then again an end line, which actually increases the cost. I mean, that's one idea. The second thing is one of the benefits, and yeah, here exactly. So if you see one of the fourth points here, what we have is we have got something called as Atlas platform, which is, I would say, it's just parallel to what Mix was many years ago, in which there is already all these assignments that MFR does globally. All the data sits there. And now this particular platform is used by a lot of investors, a lot of research bodies, because this really acts as the benchmark. So even for our certifications, assessments, and other due diligence that we do, we definitely we use this particular platform. It's an online digital platform from where we use information and gather insights on what is the benchmark at a global level, what is the benchmark at the regional level. And since this data, unlike Mix, it is not self-reported, it is more which is coming from people on the ground, the resources on the ground. The insights that gets generated is realistic, and it very well matches to what, say, the different stakeholders have been experiencing as well. So we do follow. I mean, I just wanted to say that we do follow the triangulation approach.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, so is this information available on your Atlas platform? Is it available for public or is it privately held?
For Atlas, there are different agreements. Then we can put you in touch with the person in charge of Atlas.
Yes.
So in Atlas, either you can go through a subscription, but there are also other ways. If you accept to share some information, then you can, for free, also receive some other information. Now, of course, if you do an impact assessment, all this benchmark will be integrated into the impact assessment. Of course, it's part of the impact assessment. But in general, in future, if you want to be connected with a platform that gives you a benchmark, then there are different ways of doing this. And one way is to mutually exchange information, because Atlas needs information to feed in his platform. So if you accept to do that, then in exchange you can have some information for free. To what extent, we need to check with our innovation director. She's in charge of Atlas, but we can definitely put you in contact with
okay. Thank you.
her. And I agree with what Tamu was saying, because we have a lot of benchmark on, outreach, even on pricing, on rural, but we have very little benchmark on impact indicators. That's where, we manage to make the difference, because it's not easy to obtain and not easy to make sure that it's reliable. And so all those benchmark comes from the different impact assessment we have done around the world. And so it's tested, on the ground and through our methodology.
Right.
And another, yeah, important thing that Tamu was saying is that we, because some others only rely on survey as source of input. Why we rely on survey, but also, as Tam was saying, also on MIS. So if we have institutions that have a good MIS, we really want to also use that information, because it can be even more reliable than a survey, because it's data client verified and and stored in the MIS. So we also use that to measure, if possible, some impact indicator. And maybe the last thing that I believe it's of an added value is that through our impact assessment, we aim at showing two things. One thing is the result. Okay, so what is the impact generated? In general, how many of your client has improved, decreased? What is the impact generated? But what we also do is that we match this result with what is the theory of change of the association or of the institution. So we go a little bit further. We not only say, look, it's 35%. We say, look, it's 35% against an objective, which was this, against a theory of change. So we give an opinion on whether or not these results are aligned with what should be the theory of change that this institution would like to see. And so, of course, the big part of the impact assessment is about results. But again, we have a small part, which is also on theory of change and on looking whether it's aligned, whether the results are aligned with what is the theory of change of that institution. And that's where we come up with a score. So we are able to provide a score to that impact assessment by looking at those two aspects. And it's quite a simple score for the moment, but we are actually the only one providing a score, which goes from 1 to 5, where 5 would be, very high probability of making a positive impact on the life of the client, and excellent alignment of impact result with the mission and theory of change. This is also something that we assess. We don't stop only to the result.
So this theory of change, if I understand correctly, it's the goal set by the institution?
Yes, it can be the goal set by the institution, absolutely. Or it can be, if we imagine that you want something at the association level,
Exactly.
It can also be, what are the goals of the association? What is the change you would like to see, your MFIs are doing? And then we confront, we say, is the result aligned with what you want, or there's a sort of mission drift, or not? Yeah.
And also sometimes theory of change also includes this international parameters, whether the changes are very much aligned with it or not.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Then the theory of change can change according to what is the objective, but most of the time, the social goals. Yeah.
See, why we asked you these questions, probably we are also looking at taking up a study on the impact assessment made. We are taking a study on the impact assessment of microfinance borrowers in the country. So, as I said, our microfinance is almost 25 to 30 years old now, and Sadhan itself is 25 years. So we wanted to see what kind of the impact really this sector has brought into the lives of the people. So that's why we thought we will.
Actually, we have done a study. We have conducted a study, but the sample size was small. It was around 1,000. Now we are looking forward for like around 5,000-6,000 clients across country. So we wanted to understand that what's your methodology, how do you do it, how can we bring these institutions together, and also like have a kind of understanding. Okay, fine, you are doing like this, we have done like this, and the institution which we are, which we will be working with is offshoot institution of your Reserve Bank of India. So I mean, This is why I actually wanted to understand from your end. I mean, it's wonderful. Like when you are talking about this theory of changes, how, I mean, aligning it with SDGs, then your theory of changes, everything. It's very good. I do have a question to you that you are talking about this your rating. I'm going to the other side of the things, rating. But in India, your rating tool has to be approved by SEBI. Unless and until you have that one, you cannot rate any institution. Have you got that?
How are you going to go on? Want to go on that, or no? We don't. I think those are more ratings that are from our own methodology. So it's a
Okay.
rating methodology that is recognized by all the inclusive finance sector,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I would say not necessarily recognized by the Central Bank of India. It's more, it's a set of ratings that are recognized by the main investors in all the inclusive finance
Okay.
sector. So those
Okay.
investors agree that, if they want to have a better picture, understanding of whether they reach their social goals, whether they achieve their
Mm.
social missions, then it's a
Mm.
social environmental rating that is
Mm.
done. But
Mm.
it's our methodology.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. It's also very good, like investors. So what we are doing also that in the same line, it may not be rating, but we are trying to do. We are trying to come up with a manual of the transparency that what basically the investors and lenders they want. I will give you a call. My call, Karina. So we are actually trying to build up those parameters where these lenders will also be very comfortable to support the your institution, the microfinance institutions, because there is a little bit of mismatch between the expectation and what we are getting on the field. So your this assessment is also it's very interesting that it is as per need of the investors. I mean, it's a new way of thinking. It's not only social, it may not be always the other thing. It is also the need of the. I mean, it will bring, definitely it will bring. It's a good thing to be looking at actually. That how these investors are seeing and where are you standing actually means the institutions they are standing. Yeah, this is one of the areas I think we can always work on.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
that's at least in the inclusive finance sector, there are
Mm. True.
two three products that help to demonstrate what you would like to demonstrate. One is, as I said, the social environmental rating. So that's demonstrating social environmental and impact. So that's about demonstrating how good you're doing. What is the positive impact you're generating in the lives of your
Right.
clients, and how much you're not drifting away from your social objectives. I mean, how much what you say that are your, I mean, let's say it's based on the fact that you have social objectives. What is the probability that you would reach those social objectives? Looking at, your structure, your systems, your governance, your HR, whatever, we want to make sure that they are designed in a way to allow you to reach your social objectives, or not. Or simply you disclose you have a strong social objectives, but then whatever you do will not allow you to reach your social objectives or your social goals. So this is one category. It can be through a social environmental rating, or it can be through an impact. Impact is even more direct. It really looks at, okay, what is the impact you're generating? And is it really the impact you say you want to generate? And then you have another category of product, which is this is mainly focusing on not harming. So I want to demonstrate I'm not harming my clients. And for the moment, the best way to do that is through a client protection certification. And if you want to know more about that, we can definitely, or Tanwi she's an expert on that. But this is the best way to demonstrate to the country, to the clients, to the investors that you are not harming your client because you're aligned with the best practices in terms of client protection. And those are practices and indicators that are aligned with the microfinance and inclusive word. So they're very much into what an MFI is doing. So that's approximately the two main category of products we have.
Yeah, and I think Saibal, so client protection certification is nothing new. It's the same smart campaign thing. But as you know, we kind of, smart moved to SPTF. Yeah, but it has got, I would say earlier it was 7 client protection principles. Now there is another 8 principle or dimension that has been added to it, which is more on governance and HR. But and the reason is because it was thought that in any market, if governance and HR piece is there, then the impact will be much better in terms of responsible finance, because it's about the board, it's about the people that you hire, and so on. So I know we have already worked on responsible finance area earlier. And I would also add that it's very aligned to the code of conduct, on code of conduct assessment, which MFin and Sadhan really endorses and is very vigilant about being complied by. So so I was thinking, what do you think could be the next steps?
Mr. Maman is there.
Oh yes, it's for both of you.
I think it's quite interesting in the sense, the one thing which I am interested about is that the study which we are doing, the impact assessment which we are doing with the IGIDR. IGIDR, I'm sure Tanvi knows it.
I know
it's a central bank institute. So probably there we are looking at constituting a independent advisory committee. So probably your knowledge inputs can be brought in there if we are agreeable. Maybe one of you can be part of that committee, which is being constituted advisory group or committee, whatever it is, we can. Then secondly, in this client protection itself, we can look at what best is possible further, especially although we have this code of conduct and COCA assessment is now not very common, but earlier the banks used to be asking for it. Now it's not that it's not prevalent now, but at least we do a assessment. We do make an assessment, but how can we make that assessment a little more better? Because right now what we use that we rely on the information being provided by the institutions. So can we have some tool to make an assessment by ourselves? Because we have a set of code of conduct, which unless somebody does go and take some deep study into their activities, how do we collect it without, is there any such mechanism we can develop? That's what I just.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That in order to understand, we can always develop a tool which can be implemented and assessed from different perspective. One, this finance is always there. Then the other perspective, it will be helpful for us for the reporting also. It's a good idea. And it will also help us to identify the area of industry development, like where are the gaps.
Yes.
So we can always work on it.
Saibal, anything you want to look at?
I think this is a very good idea that if we can develop a tool, because today only we were discussing about the parameters with our colleagues. So it would be a very good idea to do that one. And then also we can work together on the larger assessment of the institution. And also I would like to know from you people that is there any any case or any instance where you have done the assessment and these international investors have invested in it? Do you have that experience sitting with you? Am I clear?
Oh, no, absolutely. There is a strong link between those services we provide and investors. Very often is the investor that asks that institution to do either an impact assessment or a social environmental rating. before they take the decision of whether or not they want to invest.
Mm.
Sometimes investors are directly co-financing it, sometimes no. In some other cases, it's the institution itself that does it, on with a certain frequency every 2 or 3 years, because it's a good practice and because they know that investors would look at their new ratings or updated impact assessment. So it's a strong driver. I mean, investors want to avoid the reputational risk. And there are two big reputational risks for investors. The most important one is to invest in an institution that is harming the client. This is the most damaging, that in terms of reputation they could have. So sometimes they say, look, can you do a client protection certification? Because we want to make sure that at least you're not harming the client. This is the minimum, we want. Other investors goes further. They say, look, client protections, not harming the client, we know it's already in place, but now we want to make sure that you are doing, generating, positive change, that you are reaching your social objectives. So please do a rating, do an impact assessment, so that we are sure that we're investing in an institution, an association that is likely going to reach their social objectives and their social
Okay.
goals.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. So, what I'm thinking that why don't we build up a kind of informal consortium where you can bring your tool and also the investors. We can provide you with the microfinance institutions and let us jointly work, because in our segment, in this microfinance segment, we need a lot of investment. We need a lot of your this lending into this. So if we can develop a consortium, it's a win-win game for all of us. So our microfinance association will be like, they can provide finance to these microfinance institutions. You can assess the institution, do your business, and also like these investors, they will get their this investment, like they will get this institution to be investing in. So why don't we build up a kind of coalition or like a group to work on it jointly? Because what I could understand that assessment, if this assessment, Tanvi also knows that if this assessment needs to be translating into investment or your this your what do you call it, this investment or lending, right? So if we can build up this kind of consortium and work together, possibly it will be win-win game for all of us. Because I'm telling you very candidly that this there is this rating tool over here in India, where which is approved by SEBI, and this is a kind of standard for the bankers, investors, lenders, everyone. So if we are our this assessment, if it is not like not linked with something larger, then it will start, but it will end soon. So this
Yeah.
is what I was thinking, that if we can do something, build up a consortium, will be very good for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think under your, I would say, Saibal, under your initiative of something like a responsible finance consortium, or you can call it sustainable finance consortium, you can build up. Because why I'm saying is because in India, we have already done due diligence for some of the MFIs and NBFCs, which are already part of Sadhan as well. And some of the investors who invest in these MFIs
Right.
are, yeah, so they're already there. So it's just a matter of, creating those boundaries, which your expertise is, because you do a lot of policy and advocacy things. And we'll be very happy to, just partner with you and then use that to talk more about our tools, our products, and build tools along with you. What do you think, Joris?
Sure, I'm always open to partnership and to get things at a broader level rather than go on single MFIs. Yeah, absolutely. Then we can definitely discuss, brainstorm. Then what is important for us is always to manage to keep our independency, because this is our main reputation. So we will anyway always do an assessment or a due diligence independently, from any other. But does not exclude, partnership, of course. Otherwise, we would be sitting alone in our small room, and this is absolutely what we don't want. So.
Yeah, and there was a question that Sangeeta just asked. So I don't know if everybody referred to it, but we have Agat, who is the head of social products here. She's already working on the ESG tool. And I think, it's just going to take 3 months more time. Then we'll pilot it, then we'll standardize it. So MFR is also planning to get ESG tool into place. And I completely agree to Sadhan's concern that we are not licensed by SEBI. However, as I told you, that we have a lot of support from many investors and DFIs, development financial institutions, who actually hire us, contract us for conducting this, missions, or you can say assignments, as part of their overall due diligence. So it still works out for us. India may be one market in which we are not registered, but because of the strong regulations, I would say, but there are other markets wherein we are also exploring the same.
This SEBI registration is basically it's a formality for the purpose of having some formal engagements. See, many of these investors, they try to understand through informally the strength of institutions. So I think there your strength would be definitely appreciated and valued.
No, in India we do have grading tools. So in grading also, like many of banks, even State Bank of India, they have started looking at this grading as well. But till now it is like rating and rating. So it would be good to be working with you on this side for sure, because it should
So I
be
just
like
missed in between. Sorry.
What I was telling them, that if we can build up a consortium where we will be bringing up the microfinance, because this your assessment and everything has to be linked with some investment or lending or something. So I was suggesting, why don't we build up a consortium where you can bring your this expertise, and if you have link with this investors or lenders, and you can bring that one, and we will be bringing microfinance institutions, then we can build up a consortium where assessment will happen, then investment will happen, then microfinance institutions will be very happy to take it forward to the next level of like activities together.
Thank you. The other question which I asked Tanvi in the beginning, earlier, that is the assessment which we are doing with IG IDEA. When we are constituting an expert panel, advisory committee, whether someone can be part of that, giving your expertise and experience in doing this kind of an assessment.
Yeah, I think so. Because we have done impact assessment for, you can say, for waterdoor.org, and we are also doing a very big assignment in Europe with SIFTA. Joris, you would know more about it. I think the expertise definitely lies there, and that could be the base for building up something larger, maybe overall, say, impact assessment for Southern all members or something like that. That's the way I'm really looking at. Joris or Agat, any thoughts from your side? Because they have got 220 members, and it's a very good diversity.
This assessment is not member assessment. It's an assessment of the clients.
Of the clients, exactly. So the clients of your members, right?
See, you can't go to such a large number. So what we do is that we will be selecting sample cases from different regions, and as Sabal was telling, maybe 5,000, 6,000 or 7,000 samples will be selected from there, and we'll do a study on that.
So that can definitely be one option. Then we need to discuss internally with the technical team, how feasible that, and what would be the rules. Usually we select the client. We have a system to sample the client, just to make sure that this is independent. But yeah, I mean, we are flexible. We always try to provide a service that is aligned with the needs, of the client. The only thing that is important when we talk about impact, and Agat can confirm, is that the indicators should, as much as possible, remains the same, because otherwise it will be difficult for us to benchmark and to give a final score, which we believe it's very important and gives a lot of added value. So those are the universal standards in terms of impact. They are aligned with the social development goals. If we change a bit the question, then we cannot compare it anymore with the others. So that's the only aspect where we cannot be that flexible.
Right. So what Mr. Momin is actually asking that, for this study, the institution is already identified, and as we were indicating, this is the offshoot institution of our regulator. So it's a very good institution. What Mr. Momin is actually asking that we will build up a task force and a guiding committee on that one. This is a very independent study. Nobody is influencing from Sadhan's end. So if if your senior representative can be also part of that one, because we want to make it very exhaustive. We want to bring the knowledge of other institutions. So if you can be member of that task force, that's what we are looking for.
Advisory. Basically, it's an advisory committee.
So you can always be part
of it. You can think about it. We also need to discuss with SIDBI, because SIDBI is a funding institution for the training, for the study. So we will also have to look. So I just thought of that. Otherwise, maybe, as I said, if you can look at some kind of partnership for developing an assessment tool for some COC, code of conduct. That could be a good service, because now COCA assessment is almost, I think nobody's asking for it. So, but then how do you make the assessment of the adherence to the COCA, adherence to the code of conduct? So if we can have some kind of mechanism by drawing some information from them, and I mean, we have to do it off-site only, because on-site going and doing may not be that easy. So off-site, is there any possibility of collecting some information and making some kind of a analysis of that? That's something we should. Otherwise, as Saibal said, we can also have that partnership for bringing investors and microfinance together. So we can work together in some way or other.
Yes. I mean, we always build up, like Mr. Momin is telling, we always, and Tanvi knows us very well, that we always build up the consortium and we build up this convergence, bring the convergence of different stream and try to impact our client, poor people, unreached people.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. I mean, as the team says, we just need to circle back and come back to you on this. But one more stream, which I think is also important, but we are also looking for it. Maybe I'll schedule another call for it, which is on the sustainable bonds. Because of your strong relationship with SIDBI, NABARDS and so on. So we also basically we offer a service for being an SPO. The second party opinion for helping to create those bonds. So maybe what I'll do is I'll send some notes, which is there on our website as well, so that you can have a look, and then we can schedule another call in which we can understand more about what do we offer in terms of when it comes to bonds. And before we move ahead, before we close maybe or highlight the next steps, one last thing I also wanted to mention is that we also have developed a tool for energy companies. So we also do assessment for energy companies, which is like solar energy, could be something on wind, power, and so on. And it's all certified under GOGLA, which is an international association again. So I'll stop here, for any questions, impressions, and maybe we can just highlight the next steps, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Sabah.
Yeah, so what we can, so as we were discussing, first thing that possibly you have to talk internally if you can be the part of this task force. You will come back to us. Second, as Mr. Momin was suggesting, we can start working together to develop an assessment tool which is based on COCA, but you can also bring other factors in it and we can develop that one. And the third thing, development of this consortium where we'll be working together for assessment, bringing microfinance institutions and also these investors. So these are the three things which I could add. The last thing which I'm also very much interested is your understanding of the sustainable this your sustainable bond.
Yeah, which
Maybe
will do.
we
Yeah. So for that, there is another technical person in Paris, I guess. So we just need to get him on the call to understand more. But yeah, so I'll schedule the call for it, and then we'll come back to you on these three pointers from our side.
Right.
sounds extremely
Thank you.
good.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank
Joris.
Thank
you.
you. Have a
Thank
good
you
Thank
for
you
day.
very
that.
much.
Bye bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice
Thank
end of the
you.
day.
Bye.
Bye bye.
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 Bye. Bye. Bye.